Good morning, Tigers. I hope you all had a great first day at school yesterday and that the school year is off and running for you. Yesterday in Smart Period, you were shown how to access the student handbook on the school website, which is what you see on your screen right now. And remember, there are two places to locate the student handbook on the website. From this top navigation bar, you can go to Student Life and scroll down here and click on Student Handbook, and that will take you to the handbook. Or as the video showed you yesterday, you can scroll down here to the quick links and you can click Student Handbook here. So while we go through this tutorial, I'm going to encourage you to follow along on your device or your cell phone as we kind of highlight certain key items from the handbook. So obviously, we're not going to read through the entire handbook today, but at the end of this video, you're going to be asked by your Smart Period teacher to sign off on your acknowledgement of the rules, policies, and procedures spelled out in this handbook. And all students at FHS are expected to abide by all of the information in this handbook while you're enrolled as a student at Fishers High School. And really just thanks for your patience as we get through this. I think I can hit all the highlights in about 10 minutes or less, so buckle up. Here on page 2, you'll find an updated table of contents so that you can navigate the handbook pretty quickly and find certain sections as you need it. On page 3, you'll see our updated bell schedules for the school year. So one change for this school year is that we will not show announcements in 7th period anymore. Instead, we'll only be airing student announcements once per week during Smart Period. And so as a result of that, our normal 7 period a day schedule has changed slightly this year with basically 2 minutes added to every period. Because there was extra time built into 7th period before. So all of the other bell schedules have remained the same, but just take note of this new normal 7 period day schedule here with a couple minutes added to each section. On pages 4 and 5 of the handbook, you'll see some frequently asked questions, which can be used as kind of a quick reference tool throughout the school year on a variety of topics. And it has information about what to do when you're absent, bus problems, lost student IDs, tutoring, work permits, things of that nature. On page 7, you'll see a list of our school counselors at FHS, and their names are listed here with their corresponding kind of alpha split by student last name. Many of you probably have a good relationship with your counselor already, but in the event that you don't know your counselor super well yet, make an effort to get to know them as they can be a really great resource for you while you're here at the school. And then I also want to point out here on page 7 the FHS belief statement here, which reads that we, the students and staff at Fishers High School, show pride in one another and demonstrate our character through an appreciation of all people, regardless of ability, age, culture, religious background, color, sex, or gender identity. We believe a diverse school community prepares us for life in a dynamic world, and we celebrate what unites us and what makes us unique. All right, let's go down here to page 9, which has our grading scales here. There's no change to this grading scale for the 2019-2020 school year, but a little reminder never hurts. Next, I want to talk about lockers. Please note that seniors were not issued lockers directly this year at registration. However, any senior that requests a locker will certainly be provided with one. So if you're a senior, you don't have a locker yet, and you're interested in procuring a locker here at school, all you need to do is contact the dean's office, and they'll get you set up with a locker that day. I do want to point out the other 2 bullet points listed here under lockers. Number 1 says that all locker and other storage areas provided for student use on school premises remain the property of the school corporation, and they're provided for the use of students subject to inspection, access for maintenance, or search pursuant to this Indiana code. No student shall lock or otherwise impede access to any locker or storage area except with a lock provided by or and approved by the principal of the school in which the locker or storage area is located. Unapproved locks will be removed and destroyed. If we scroll down here to messages and deliveries pretty quick, just remember that only emergency messages and deliveries from a parent will be delivered to students. So messages received by telephone or delivered in person will be sent to the administrator who may forward the message to the student. But students should not expect to receive messages from employees concerning work schedules or anything like that. If a parent drops something off school related to the student, the parent just needs to inform the student to then go down and pick it up in the main office. and the school doesn't accept any gifts like flowers or balloons or things like that for students. On pages 12 to 19 of the student handbook, you'll see all of the graduation requirements for the different diplomas, such as the Core 40 diploma, the Academic Honors diploma, etc. And so as you're working this year in your classes, and as you schedule classes for next year, and as you think about graduation and which diploma you'd like, just remember that this is where you can find the different diploma requirements. And then if we scroll down to page 20, you'll see here our graduation pathways information. So freshmen, current freshmen, class of 2023, this message applies particularly for you because beginning with the class of 2023, the graduation requirements for the state of Indiana are changing, and the new graduation requirements for you can be found here. While other students at Fishers, not just freshmen, can graduate with these pathways now, they will be a requirement for the class of 2023 and beyond. So freshmen, this is a spot for you right now, so just make sure you read through pages 20 and 21 at your earliest convenience. On page 25, you'll see here just some information that's also in our course description guide, but it's about schedule change requests. Please note that schedule changes are rare, to be honest. And in a school of nearly 3,700 students, our master schedule, as you can imagine, is pretty complex. Student schedules and teacher schedules, there's a lot of things that kind of factor into building those things. And so while we would like to be able to accommodate all students' requests, say like, hey, I want to have math in the morning, or I really like this teacher, I wish I could have them for this class. The fact is we really just can't honor those schedule changes. So out of fairness for all of our students, please don't request to have your schedule changed after this June 1st deadline, which obviously has already passed. The only circumstances, the ones listed here in these bullet points, are really the only circumstances that we consider for possible, schedule changes. On page 27, it's pretty important. I want to call your attention to a new procedure this year, and it has to do with grade reporting. So beginning with this school year, final semester grades will be determined by counting the semester work as 80% and the final exam grade as 20%. And that's a change. In the past, we've had 2 9-week periods in which the first 9 weeks was worth 40% of your grade. The second 9 weeks was weighted equally and worth 40% of your final grade. And then your final exam was worth 20. But the only thing that's going to be a little bit different this year is that we're going to take the whole body of work as a whole, and that constitutes 80%. So the 9 weeks isn't a grade cutoff point. It's really the work you do the entire semester that's all thrown into one pot and worth 80%. Now, that being said, under number 2 here, you'll see that you will still get midterm benchmarks. You will still get a quarterly grade update, like a grade report, and that's going to be available to you in Skyward. You can request a hard copy report as well, and teachers will be expected to keep their grade book up to date. But in terms of the actual calculation of your semester grade, it's 80% work for the semester and 20% final exam grade. If we scroll down here to page 30, it's got some sections about, or some information about our health services. I want to highlight a couple of these items here. Number 2, to go to the clinic, you have to have a hall pass from your current teacher or the class that you're about to attend. Students, you're not to report to the clinic during passing periods unless prior arrangements have been made. The clinic can be visited before or after school. You can also go to the clinic during your lunch without a pass, and the clinic is open from 7:30 to 3. You typically won't be allowed to remain in the clinic for an entire period unless they have, you've got a fever, you show obvious signs of illness. Otherwise, our nurses will probably send you back to class. And then if you need to go home due to an illness, you certainly will be allowed to do so if you're picked up by a parent or if you've got written or verbal permission from the parent. So if we call home or call your parent and they say, yeah, you can go home, then you'll be able to do so. I'm going to keep scrolling here about announcements. This is really not our student announcements, but more so like posters and things in the hallway. All posters have to be, approved by an administrator before being displayed on the wall. So you can't just kind of put whatever you want up on the walls of the building. They should also be affixed to bulletin boards or non-painted surfaces. So just keep that in mind if you're running for class officer, or you're calling out for a club or whatever. Just make sure that you abide by those policies. And then let's see, if we scroll down a little bit, you'll see some information about visitors. Just remember that you can't have visitors in the cafeteria during lunch. You'll also find all the information you need about obtaining a work permit. You can find that here at the bottom of page 31. Page 32, you'll find some important statements about acceptable social media use. And here it says, participation in activities, groups, and teams is a privilege at Fishers High School, and the use of social media on and off campus by a student is that's considered unbecoming of a tiger or reflects discredit upon FHS may result in discipline, including suspension or removal from the activity, the group, possibly a leadership position or a team. So again, you've heard it before. Just be really mindful of what you're putting out there on social media. Again, your digital footprint never really escapes you. So just keep that in mind. We host several dances here at Fishers High School each year, and there are a couple rules that I want to call your attention to about these dances. You see the list here, but it says dances are held periodically and are sponsored by various clubs and organizations to raise money. A student violating the rules and regulations that apply to school dances will be subject to appropriate discipline. So it's understood that obscene dancing or, as determined by the staff, will result in the removal of the dance. Only Fisher students can attend the dance. There may be guests permitted to some dances and not to others. So keep an eye out for those guidance, pieces. But anyway, read through that list of protocol when you get a chance. Let's see, if we scroll down to attendance, beginning on page 35, it actually continues all the way through page 38. You'll find our full attendance policies and procedures. Please take special notes of our attendance phone number, which can be found right here, which can also be found on the FHS website. And please note that this phone number is different than the normal school number. So it might be a good idea for you or your mom or dad or parent or whatever to put this number in their phone as FHS attendance so that they don't keep calling the wrong number. Please read through this section carefully, though, so that you know how to document your absences for different reasons. And remember that students can't be absent from school more than 8 days each semester, and they cannot be absent for more than 16 days per school year. Let's keep going here. On pages 39, starting on page 39, actually goes all the way through page 52, you'll see the entire section on discipline. And of course, it's our hope that students will not have to encounter any of the disciplinary actions laid out in this section, but I do need to take a few minutes and highlight some of the key takeaways from this section. Obviously, students are held, sort of accountable for their actions, and students are expected to conduct themselves at all times in a manner that will contribute to the best interest of the school. Education can't take place unless there's an atmosphere of order or discipline, and students are expected to behave appropriately during all school activities and functions, whether that's on or off school property, or while traveling to and from a school activity. I want to highlight a couple sections in particular. Section 5 has to do with suspensions or expulsions. Under Section 5, you'll see that students can be suspended or expelled from school for misconduct, substantial disobedience, unlawful activities. Section 7 has to do with electronic devices. Students are required to have an electronic device that meets or exceeds our district's guidelines. Teacher discretion may be used to restrict the use of electronic devices in the classroom for particular classroom activities. And if school personnel have reasonable suspicion that a student has used an electronic device to violate a school rule or to interfere with a school purpose, then that device may be confiscated and subject to reasonable search. Section 11 has to do with student dress. This is always a big one. Remember, whenever a school official considers a student's appearance to be inappropriate, immodest, or distracting to the educational environment, a conference can be conducted. The student will be asked to make the necessary accommodations to their outfit. The bulleted list here provides examples of clothing or item that are considered inappropriate. So please read through this list carefully and make sure not to wear these items to school. Section 12 lays out information about student parking and driving. Any student who drives a vehicle to FHS must have a current parking tag affixed using the adhesive of the tag, not tape, and you have to affix that to the lower corner of the passenger side windshield. Parking tags, if you don't have one, you can get one in the dean's office. Section 13 contains information about our drug education and random drug screening policy. In this section, you'll see that any student who's an athlete or a driver of a vehicle to school is subject to random drug screening as a condition of participation in these activities. Section 17 contains information related to bullying, and bullying is prohibited by HSE schools, of course. Students who commit any acts are subject to discipline, including but not limited to suspension, expulsion, arrest even, or prosecution. Anyone who believes that a student has possibly been or is the victim of bullying is encouraged to immediately report the situation to an appropriate staff member, such as a teacher or a school counselor or administrator. Let's see, Section 18. Employees or students of HSE schools will not engage in any activity to harass an employee or student through conduct or communications of a sexual nature. The use of the term employee also includes non-employees and volunteers who are subject to the control of school authorities. And then HSE School Corporation does not discriminate on the basis of protected classes, including but not limited to race, color, sex, national origin, age, religion, disability in the programs or activities which it operates, or the employment therein of or admission thereto. The school strictly adheres to all non-discrimination and anti-harassment laws and does not tolerate acts of harassment. Section 19 has information about our substance abuse policy, and I'll call your attention to one sentence in particular, which states that it is a violation to provide another, possess, or be under the influence of any substance which is or contains tobacco, alcohol, marijuana, or stimulant, or any intoxicant, narcotic, or depressant, hallucinogen, or substance representing a drug. Kind of related to that, Section 20 has statements about reasonable suspicion. And the administration shall have the authority to require a student to submit to a chemical test of the student's breath or urine if the administration has reasonable suspicion that the student, while at school, is using or is under the influence of alcohol, marijuana, or a controlled substance as defined by Indiana law. Section 21 lists the items that are prohibited in school. Please make special note that nicotine delivering devices, nicotine products, vape devices are not allowed on school grounds. And as a reminder, students with vape devices are issued a citation by Fishers Police Department, and that requires a court visit. Section 22 explains that the school is not responsible for any lost or stolen items. Any item or on school premises or brought to the school function that is considered to be inappropriate or misused or prohibited may be confiscated by the school personnel. Section 27 explains that students may not use any device to photograph or record, includes both audio and video, the activities of other students or district personnel while on school property or a school-sponsored activity unless they are expressly authorized in advance by the building principal or the designee and with the consent of the individuals being recorded. Students who violate this expectation may face, obviously some disciplinary consequences. Section 31 explains that a student who causes damage to or loss to, of any school property will be required to reimburse the school for such damage or loss. An appropriate disciplinary action may be imposed as well. Damage or lost instructional articles will be replaced by the student responsible for them, and the individual school price list will be used in establishing the replacement fees for those things. Section 33, while this is not new information, it serves as a good reminder for all of us, and that's that you have to have your student ID with you at all times. So make sure that you're carrying that with you so that you can present it to a school employee in the event that they request that. All right, I'm going to scroll down to page 60. We are almost there. Okay, as it relates to the use of, personal computing devices, HSC schools permit students to bring their own personal laptops and other devices, but HSC accepts no responsibility or financial liability for these laptops. Laptops or other devices that are lost or stolen or damaged, the responsibility of the student and his parents, regardless of how the loss, theft, or damage occurred. Okay, that's it. Tigers, thanks for your attention as we got through some of those things. Remember, those are just a few of the highlights of the handbook, but all students are responsible and accountable for all actions and all information laid out in the handbook. At this time, your Smart Period teacher will circulate a kind of a handbook sign-off form for you to write your name and signature, which is your acknowledgement that you're aware of the policies and procedures in the handbook and that you are consenting that you will abide by those rules. If you have any questions about the handbook, please feel free to contact me. My name is Mr. Goodwin. You can find me in the main office or our deans, Mr. Miller, Mr. Schooley, Mrs. Young. Thanks for your patience, Tigers, and have a great rest of the day.